All right, so we did a session yesterday about Pittsburgh, and the point of that session was to look at what people are doing in other cities that is working in order to try and copy some of those things and be inspired by them. The point of this session is much the same. There's a remarkable effort taking place right now on the west side of Charleston that I won't even tell you anything about just because Megan is going to get into that. But for someone who's been in Charleston, and my wife's from Charleston, the west side says something at the moment. It has a connotation for a lot of people in Charleston and in West Virginia that is not about economic strength or positivity or being a good place to live, but a couple of really brave and innovative and committed people are doing some really great things to try and change that. And it's just a terrific story, and they're terrific people. And so I wanted to use news story to shine a light on what's happening in that part of the world and hear from the people that are behind it. So welcome, Megan. Take it away.
Thanks. Hi. Can you guys hear me? Hi. Okay, so I'm Megan Bullock, and I am a co-founder of Mesh Design and Development, a branding and web design and development company in Charleston and offices in New York. We started on the west side about 8 years ago, and I am also the owner of the Lynn Building in Elk City. And today I have with me on my very small panel my brother, Ty. Can we hear you?
Yeah, can people see me?
Yeah, everyone can see you.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
This is my brother, Ty, and he is the president of Crawford Holdings and Bullock Properties and maybe some other companies that he might want to add. And he and my dad have been doing redevelopment work on the west side of Charleston for the last, basically since we've been able to throw a hammer. And Ty and I grew up working on my dad's building, the Ort building, on the west side. And in the summers, I painted and did basic sanding. And my brother learned how to do carpentry work all growing up. And so now, fast forward 10 or so years later, we have, I have one building in Elk City. And my brother and my dad have, 12 buildings now that they've been historically renovating. We have, there's 14 new businesses that have opened in the last 10 years since we've been working there. We also, just full transparency, 8 businesses have closed, 8 other businesses. So 8 older businesses have closed, 14 new businesses have opened or relocated to the neighborhood. This is always changing, but 49 new jobs in the area. Right now, 7 renovated apartments, and I think a few more on the way that he's flipping this summer, and 1 or 2 renovated houses. So those are kind of the stats of what's going on top level. We both grew up on we spent our elementary school days on the west side, and my dad is a history fanatic and always talked about Elk City. He did all of this research on the neighborhood, and then he just started calling the neighborhood Elk City. And now, 10 or 15 years later, there's a whole movement of people moving to Elk City. It's what, maybe Ty, you know more of the history on it, but it's what they called the area in the early 1900s. So I'm going to share a movie with you first. Nobody's seen this yet. You might have seen the trailer online. Ty just shared it with me this morning. And then we're going to talk about a few of our projects. And I would love to hear from you all what you might be interested in today. Ty has a lot of background on the macro, creating systemic partnerships and financial models, and I have a lot of experience with working on the social fabric, connecting people, bringing creatives to the area. So we're probably going to open it up to questions pretty early on, but let me share this first. They called the area.
What would you say your message would be for businesses that are wanting to relocate?
Oh, maybe not.
Is up and coming.
David, can you turn the volume up?
Community would be lucky to have them, and they would be lucky to have them.
False alarm.
Is that? Sorry, Megan.
It's okay.
We just need some sound.
What would you say your message would be for businesses that are wanting to
We thought we had it. Hi, can we hear you there?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
I think that Elk City
Here we go.
is up and coming, and I think that
What would you say your message would be for businesses that are wanting to relocate?
I'm going to call you back, Ty.
Okay.
Sorry, Megan.
That's okay. This is
Just need some sound.
What would you say your message would be for businesses that are wanting to relocate?
I think that Elk City is up and coming, and I think that the community would be lucky to have them, and they would be lucky to have the community.
Sometimes we're lost. Sometimes we're found.
How do you think your business will benefit from being in this area?
I don't think I could have a better neighbor than a nice barbershop next door. I'm having to warn those guys already not to play such cool music in their shop. I want people over here for that. And the folks around the corner, Base Camp Printing, Emily did some of that promotional materials. Dan and Hillary have been wonderful to me, been mentors to me, have hosted me even before I was able to open the shop during their holiday season. So far, it's been a real good mix of people, and it's not just what we're doing, it's how we're doing it, and I think it's who we are. I think we all really want to see each other succeed, whether or not it has any benefit to ourselves. Have a better neighbor than a nice barbershop next door.
Elk City was one of the original cities in Charleston, and to bring that back is cool. We're all about tradition, as you can see, and we just think that's important to keep in Charleston.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it was such a little well-defined area back then. It's kind of cool just to kind of bring it back to life a little bit.
So far, it's been a real good mix of people, and it's not just what we're doing.
Elk City is a great place for business because of the community of people that are here and the other business owners that are around here. Everyone has the attitude where they just want to see each other grow and succeed. We do what we can to collaborate a lot. The relationship I have with Kinship is amazing. I work with Mesh Design right next door and done work with Bully Chop and Elk City Records, so we all just like working together and see each other grow. And I'm proud to be a part of it.
I think this is something that everybody kind of touched on, but this sense of creative entrepreneurs coming through this area and building these new and creative and artistic spaces is what builds a community's growth and transformation, and then also builds a sense of character and a sense of pride for your neighborhood, and it's really important to us.
Right next door.
I think that there's wonderful neighborhoods here, that the quality of life here is good. The housing is awesome. It's a cool, walkable community, and I think we've kind of lost that in a large sense with automobiles, and everyone just gets in their car and sits in rush hour traffic. And I think that we're starting to see a shift in that, and we're starting to see a shift in what people want out of life, and I think that we're helping provide that. The spaces are here. It's just a matter of someone saying that they want to do it. And they want to pull the trigger on wonderful neighborhoods. I would encourage any business owner or anyone that's even thinking about opening a business to shoot me an email. Let me know what your idea is. It's ty.bullock@gmail.com. And I think we've kind of lost that in a large sense.
Whoa.
With automobiles.
So for some reason, we're somehow also playing this somewhere else.
Playing twice.
And I think that we're starting
Who made that film, Megan? It's a great film. Is that a local filmmaker?
Yes, it is, and Ty actually worked with him on it. It's Filmanatics. Hey Ty, we just watched the video. You here?
Yeah.
Okay, so who did you work with making the Elk City video?
It was two guys that just recently started their own business, Filmanatics.
Where are they based?
They're from South Charleston, but they're kind of just based in the Charleston area.
Cool. So I'm going to let you guys watch some images as we talk today, and we'll go back and forth to Ty. Sorry, he couldn't be here. He had some things with Elk City to do. So I think one of the most important things about the work that we're doing to me is what you just saw on the screen. It's the people. And we've heard this a lot. I really love how Create Pittsburgh talked about this yesterday, but bringing together the right group of people that can complement one another's strengths is one of the most important things that we've found in community development and building out Elk City. So we have Kinship. Dan and Hillary have been amazing, not only hosting their shop, but hosting events. And Dan is in a band and really well connected in the music world. And so anytime a band is driving through West Virginia, he now has them stop and they play at Kinship. So those type of events and asking people to, hey, can you stop here for the night and do your thing here, has been transformative. The Mike and Mike from the barbershop, I think they moved back from the West Coast to start their barbershop. Phil is a retired lawyer, and he actually was helping Josh and I with a law thing. Josh is my partner at Mesh a few years ago, and we gave him a tour of the neighborhood, and a year and a half later, we saw him walking around, not in his suit anymore, and looking at spaces to start a record shop. Emily has been able to start her business at Base Camp through Kinship, mentoring her and giving her space for a few years, so they've really made that happen. And so we all, I think, we have a lot of amazing different businesses there, and we all support each other and help each other develop our skills, but also play to the strengths that we have. So some of us are influencers, some of us are ideas people, some of us are executors. And today you're seeing a lot of the businesses in this video here, but there's so many amazing people behind the scenes, which I'm just going to go through. Here's Mike at the barbershop. So this is my dad, John Bullock, in his favorite pose. Right, this is my favorite picture of him. He thinks that you're more powerful if you put your hands over your head. And he is pretty much, I'm going to say, like the number one influencer in all of this happening. I introduced him to Dan and Hillary a few years ago, and just for him to give them advice on another thing, and he ended up recruiting them to the West Side for my brother to then build the space out in his building. And so
this work that he's seeing his daughter and son do now was a vision of his many years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he's been wanting to see this grow for a long time, and he's been pretty much pruning us to when I was going to move to New York and just work for a company, and he's like, why don't you just stay here for a few months and freelance, and we'll see what happens. And then he's like, why don't you hang your sign? His big thing is hanging your sign. So he really believes in having storefront businesses. And I think that that's really been transformative in Elk City. My first studio on the West Side was on the second floor, and people didn't really know who we were. And since we've moved to a storefront last year, that's just the walking traffic has changed the type of clients that we're working with in Charleston, which is really cool.
So I have a question about that, if you wouldn't mind, Megan. Yeah. So when people use terms like social fabric, some people might just roll their eyes and be like, what is that? But I think you have some great example of concretely what that looks like, and ground floor is one of the things. But what are the other things that you've been doing in Elk City that actually generates social fabric? Like, what are the things that other businesses can do to recreate some of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, a space is only as good as a space. Like, our family loves architecture, but it's really the people that fill the space and what you do with the space. So in our storefront at Mesh, we're a design studio, so we realized we're just sitting in a storefront and not letting people in. And people are always knocking on our window, and we're actually like, oh, we're working right now. And we realized that that's obviously the wrong mentality, so we're trying to open our studio up for public hours, and then we also started a coding workshop series for kids at our studio. I think one of the most amazing things about the social fabric is putting a lot of creative people in a small physical space together. creates all of these organic interactions and opportunities for collaboration. So I'm just going through a few people here. This is Jennifer Miller, who used to run Mission Savvy. She lives upstairs in one of my apartments now. This is a neon sign maker who I think also made the underground sign. He's so amazing, and we're trying to get him to teach a neon sign bending workshop at our studio. This is Kaylee. She moved back from Asheville into the apartment above the Mesh Studio space, and she's a mural artist and a sign painter, so she's painted all the signs that you see in Elk City and beyond. This is her painting mine. She did all of the kinship signs. This is Jim at Kira, which I think my brother is going to talk a little bit about big picture partnerships, but Jim is, well, Ty, I'll let you talk. You'll hear about him in a second. This is John Ellswick, who has run a ton of the construction jobs. So all of these people are part of the social fabric, and we all support each other and learn from each other. And John Bullock. This is Jan and Hillary, and this is Megan Payne. So could I tell a little story about this? So Megan is a union welder, and she had a day off on her union job, and so my contractor, Rachel at Responsible Renovations, brought Megan in to fix some crazy holes in the floor that happened because problems happen. And I found out she welds, and I really wanted somebody to custom weld our storefront. And I asked her to do it, and she didn't feel, she thought about it and didn't feel like she had the confidence to, or the skill set to actually make something like that. She'd only ever welded plumbing before. And I ended up introducing her to Nina, who is a friend of mine and a sculptor and a welder as well, and a teaching artist, and asked her to do the storefront as well, and she also did not feel confident executing the storefront. And those two met that day on the job. Nina went and chipped in on apprentice for the day welding, and they became great friends, and they said, okay, we'll do it together. And so you'll see some pictures later, but in 2 weeks, they custom designed and built the storefront of Mesh, which is pretty amazing. And it was something neither of them felt the confidence to do without one another, but when they came together, the craft and the design skill sets were able to execute on this really beautiful thing. So since then, Megan she started building furniture, so she's built most of the furniture, welded most of the furniture in our building. And then I want to point out, so here's Megan in the back here, and this is Xavier in the front, her son. And when Megan was coming, we gave her extra space to build her furniture. She built some for us, and she started building other furniture in her after hours. And she would bring Xavier, and Xavier started hanging out with our programmers in our studio. And so he started to learn how to code. And then Xavier said, can you guys have classes for this? And we were like, no, we don't have time to do that. Well, fast forward, now we have been hosting these code workshops. And Xavier is our first advisor on it. He's 13 years old, and he has been helping with the code workshops for the younger kids and helping us design the curriculum and give feedback on when adults talk too much. So seeing all of these organic relationships happen out of one relationship, I think if you're thinking about how to do this, encourage those opportunities for people to experiment and learn from each other, and think about how different skill sets can partner to actually accomplish things, and be okay with people that have never done something before. Like, that's taking that risk is, I think, really important.
There's something happening today, right, in Elk City that's a good example of the social fabric that you talk about. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so the ice cream social is happening today. That is why I do not have a panel. All the businesses are open for the afternoon, and the ice cream social used to be down at the high school, and they are moving it to our block on Tennessee Avenue where all these new businesses have opened. And so all the businesses are staying open after hours today, and they all have their own events. So everybody right now is prepping for the ice cream social. Cool. I also just want to talk about, that's me, sorry. The behind the scenes people. So you're looking at a lot of really creative people, but this kind of work can't be done without implementers as well. And so this is Dusta over here on the left, Dusta Tanner Mace. And literally nothing in Elk City could be done without Dusta. Dusta does all the paperwork. She incorporates all the companies. She helps do the books. She gets all of the behind-the-scenes work done. That one, and this is my mom, Ellen. Those two are, and it's really everybody coming together, and none of this could be done without all of these different pieces of the puzzle. And so I think a lot of times people talk about like creative community building, creative placemaking, and it's all about the ideas. Well, it's just as much about these people that help creatives get things done and implement on them. So Ty, are you here? Do you want to add on to any? Oh, one more. This is Ray. Okay, so Ray lives down the street. I have a better picture of him somewhere, but this is him in his true element. And Ray has worked on every single building over the last 7 years, doing something in some capacity. But the most important thing that Ray does is he bikes around the neighborhood in the evenings. And he basically, if you know Jane Jacobs' Eyes on the Street, he puts eyes on the street and he watches over all the buildings. He's like our personal neighborhood watch. And he calls people and he encourages other people to be on watch. Anytime I've ever had a problem or been nervous, I've called Ray and he's been there in 2 minutes, which is crazy because he doesn't really move that fast. But he can get there fast when he thinks someone might be in trouble. So, you know, all of these different personalities are all a part of the social fabric, I think. Ty, do you want to add to that? Oh, there's Ray again.
Yeah, hello, Ty.
No, I think you encapsulated that pretty well.
Well, I have a question. In order to generate some conversation with Ty, can I ask a question? Yeah. So, Ty, you obviously know, and you guys are probably familiar with Dan and Hillary at Kinship Goods. I remember talking to Dan and Hillary when they were first in their original space in downtown Charleston, and Dan is a pretty, he's an energetic guy, and he was furious. Frankly, he was pissed off about moving to Charleston and how expensive the rent was in that original space. And he'd done some looking around thinking that there are so many abandoned spaces here. Why are the landlords charging us so much? Why don't they want tenants in? And they discovered some legislative things on the books at a city level where property owners get a tax discount or a tax rebate for keeping their space empty if they can say that it's used for storage. So if you have a bottle of water or a chair or a table in a vacant building, as a building owner, you can claim a tax write-off. And so it's a disincentive for building owners to lease spaces. And so, Ty, as a developer, what can we do, or what can people do to encourage legislative improvements, either at a city level or a state level, that would help people like you do the work that you do?
I think that there's a lot that we can do. And I think that this is a good problem to have, because it's not like it's a truly economic problem where, there's some lack of resources or lack of a labor pool. These are just laws that we can literally change with a stroke of a pen. And so in that way, I view it as a...
I would just add he's a lawyer, so I don't feel that way, but he does.
And so, I also think that Charleston has kind of reached this sort of slump. And I don't think it's just a West Virginia issue. I think that it's an American issue right now, where a lot of our cities, and I think cities all over the world, sort of go through cycles. And we're kind of in a cycle. We're towards the end of a cycle right now, where buildings need updated. They need infrastructure updates. They need new plumbing, HVAC. And we're not doing anyone any favors by allowing this cycle to go on without starting itself over. So I think anything that we can do to I'm more of a person that advocates for leading with a carrot rather than a stick. So I think if we could create financial incentives through tax breaks or through public-private partnerships, where we can incentivize low interest loans from public lenders. If we can lead with a carrot, then I think that we can force people to, not force isn't the right word. We can really make them want to do dynamic things with their buildings, and not just allow them to and give them an excuse to just kind of rest on their laurels and So yeah, I would say that the biggest thing that we can do is tax credits through historical renovations, new market tax credits. There's a lot of carrots that are out there. And then things like the Charleston Urban Renewal Authority, CURA in Charleston, has been a really crucial economic driver in the city, in that they've really been a great partner by loaning to projects that no bank would touch, just unbankable projects that, a lot of banks have certain portfolios that they have to adhere to. They have certain criteria. They have certain loan to value ratios, and these kind of historic renovation projects are not in those portfolios. Unless you find some really sort of dynamic, community-centered banks, which are few and far between, then you really need to look at these public and private partnerships. Charleston's really lucky to have CURA, but CURA is funded through the mall, and they actually own the mall, and that's where they get their revenue sources from. So that's not going to work for every community. It's not a sustainable model, but CURA has done a good job with what they've been given, and URAs are in general. It's not just Charleston that's allowed to have URAs. URAs are Chapter 16, Section 8 of the West Virginia Code that allows for cities and municipalities to set up these urban renewal authorities, these URAs, and these can be really powerful economic drivers for towns if they can figure out a way to sort of seed fund these URAs, and then these URAs can give low interest loans, low interest, and preferably no principal payments for an extended period of time. So some of the buildings that we've done in Charleston have been with CURA funds, and these were some of the really endangered ones that needed, that, like I said, that no bank would touch. So I approached CURA for financial assistance with these, and CURA gave me a 1% interest only, this is crucial, interest only payments for 5 years. So what that allows me to do is to approach people like Dan and Hillary, Phil Mielek, and some other parties that I'm talking to, and because I have use of funds without a significant payback in the short term. What that allows me to do is approach these prospective businesses and say, hey, if you guys would be interested in starting a business, and if you could come up with, maybe 50% of the funds to build your space out, you can customize your space. We can view your capital contribution as prepaid rent for that time period, because I don't have significant payments to make back to CURA. So it just it leverages private buy-in from the community. It leverages these natural assets that we have. By natural, I mean beautiful but dilapidating historic buildings, and we get new businesses in. And I think that what these new businesses like about this model is that as I said, it allows them to customize their space, and we can build it out however their specs are. But it also doesn't put a pinch on their cash flows in the beginning. So that allows them to stand on their feet and sort of build their base before really springing off into more dynamic projects. To answer your question, I think it's actually it seems like it's an easy solution, just writing some laws, but really it's going to start with advocating with on a local level, but also advocating on a statewide level with the state senate and the state legislature, and tell them that you support historic buildings and that you support small business growth.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. Casey?
Yeah, I had a question. So as people that have started businesses, worked with downtown redevelopment, do you work only, it seems like you know a lot about the process and everything. Do you work only in your community, or have you either acted as a coach or a consultant outside your communities to help people through these steps in other communities in West Virginia?
So I think Ty is doing some other work in West Virginia, and I do creative placemaking work in Brooklyn, New York as well. So for the people aspect and the creative community development, I do that at different places. Ty, do you want to talk about any other places.
Yeah.
I think you've been working in Mount Hope in Fayette County.
Yeah, so Megan and I are from Fayette County originally, Thurman, West Virginia. And the URA, the Fayette County URA, approached me about 2 years ago, and they asked me if I would sort of be a contact or a liaison for helping them leverage their position. So there's only a couple URAs in the state. There's the Fayette County, there's the Huntington URA, the Charleston URA, and I think that's it. And so the one in Fayette County, we've been talking about trying to figure out some kind of model that will work for Mount Hope, West Virginia, which is a beautiful little coal town along the New River Gorge. And the recent Bechtel Boy Scout Reserve was just built, and is still being built in phases right outside of it literally butts up against the town. So there's a lot of advantages that these small local communities can start orienting towards and focusing on and leveraging. And so I've been helping the Fayette County URA sort of brainstorm about how do we do this? Do we write grants for ARC? Do we go to the USDA for grants? The National Endowment for the Arts. So yeah, I've been trying to work with other communities, especially in Fayette County, but each community is going to have a different approach, and so there's not really there are some overarching themes that do work for all of the communities, but everyone's going to have a different solution, and that's interesting. I think it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. Yes, you could. His email is in this video, so I think you could definitely email him.
I think I know where Casey's head is. Casey works at the hub, so she's like, we need to get that guy to talk to other guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to build off of something. So Ty's talking a lot about purchasing power and how to spend money on a large scale, and I just want to build off that and add that purchasing power on a small scale is really important in these type of projects as well. So in my building, everything is made with local materials by local labor. I have brought a few designers and people in from New York that are friends that have helped with certain things like the storefront, but the process of making and the way that you spend your money in making is just as important to us as the final product, and also considering on-the-job training. So I hired a contractor that had what I can't remember the name right now, a women's retraining program for incarcerated women. And so on-the-job training and making sure you're thinking about how you're spending your money, or your loan money or your bank money as you're doing building projects like this is really important. And then second, like on the smallest scale, purchasing power within your community. We all hire each other to do jobs. So Kaylee, all of our businesses, Kaylee's doing a mural for Ty right now, and I'm waiting for her to do my mural. And she's done all of the signs in the neighborhood. Basecamp Printing does all of my letterpress printing. We all hire one another as much as possible, and we try and spend our money with each other. So there's also an element of being a conscious consumer and thinking about your money as a power on a really small level all the way up to the big level that Ty's talking about.
I have a question for you, Megan and Sarah. It seems like you have this little tight crew, right? What's the next step in terms of trying to continue to bring in new energy, how does that outreach happen? Like how much of it is just serendipity and how much of it is like targeted, you looking for people?
Yeah, okay, so I think Ty and I both have different answers to that. For me, I'm really focused on these workshops right now and creating more opportunities for collaboration between craftspeople and designers and makers in different ways. I just received a fellowship to explore creative community making over the next year with these workshops. So right now we're just doing coding, and we have our local developers and this really awesome woman, Isabel, who started the Verse Girls Who Code Club in West Virginia, are partnering to teach the code workshops to kids in the neighborhood. And we can't teach enough workshops. We just have kids emailing us all the time and knocking on our studio door, and we're like, how do we make enough workshops. And we're also interested in doing, we've been talking about doing a playground design studio and actually having kids design a playground for our neighborhood. So the more that, for me, that I can use design as a tool for exchange and as a tool for building, the more excited I am. So those are my next steps. And then Ty, I think you've been working to fill some of your spaces. You have, I mean, right now we have people emailing us for apartments, so we don't have enough apartments. We have a woman in Nashville that's trying to move back, and we're hoping she'll be able to move in above kinship, I think, at the end of the year, or whenever those are going to be done. So what are your next steps, Ty?
Well, you guys saw one of them, that video. A lot of it is serendipity, which I don't think it's serendipity, but it's not. It's getting out there and just meeting people, making connections, and having those conversations. That's a huge part of it. But it's also, I think for me, some of the next steps are letting people know that that we can overcome this classic entrepreneurship dilemma where people are really good at what they do. They're really good at making the product that they make or providing the service that they provide, but they don't even really get off the ground because the classic entrepreneurship dilemma, they don't know how to balance checkbooks, or that's an oversimplification. You know, they don't know how to read financial statements as well as they should, or they don't know how to talk to banks. And so for me, my next step is helping let people know that I can be a resource on those things, and not to let those things inhibit them getting off the ground in the first place. So I'm really working hard on trying to let people know that focus on your idea, and I can help you work through the more mundane or the more specialized aspects of starting a business. So it's an interesting transition that our company is going through right now.
Yeah, and I would add, I mean, I think when we just learned this from our dad, in all of our work, there's an element of mentorship. So, what we know that we can bring to the table beyond this specific skill set, we bring to the table, or we connect people with other people. And our dad has always done that for us, So
that's a wonderful invite from Ty and Megan, so please take them up on it. Let's hear from Sarah, and then we'll keep it moving along. But please, if anyone here there's a light bulb going off in their head, follow up with these people. It's an offer to help start a new business, to help revitalize buildings, so please pull that thread. Sarah.
I was wondering if you could describe if you have a relationship with the West Side Main Street program and how you work with that organization for what you're doing.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of formal and informal partnerships. So I'm not working directly with Main Street, but speaking of purchasing power, they've definitely hired my company to do jobs over the years and kept business local. I think in that capacity, we've worked with them. We've actually worked with Charleston Area Alliance has been a big supporter. I think they helped with the Stats Hospital project that Ty's worked on, that Ty owns and is revitalizing. Ty, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm on the board of Westside Main Street, and they're the ones putting on the ice cream social today. They do the things that they kind of fill that gap that a lot of businesses on their own wouldn't do, like ice cream socials, or having a sort of a mini festival, or a business after hours meet and greet. Main streets are an incredible economic driver for businesses and for community development. The Charleston one we just recently merged with the East End Main Street and became Charleston Main Streets, and that's allowed for a more holistic approach to the city as a whole, rather than the East End or the West Side. And so I think that's been a good step going forward. But as I said, Main Streets it's a nationwide program, and it's a wonderful way to sort of help channel federal dollars into these small Main Street programs and communities. So I encourage everyone to approach their Main Street, see what they can do to volunteer for them, see what they can do to get one started. If there's not one already started in your community, they're great. I can't speak more highly about Main Street programs.
And I think that just to build off that all local nonprofits, the more people can fill in the gaps and figure out, what can your Main Street do that other companies aren't doing or other people in the neighborhood aren't doing. Building that elastic network where everybody is contributing in some way. I think Main Street has done that in our neighborhood, and it's gone through a lot of different transitions over the years that we've been working there. But there's a lot of other great local organizations doing things as well. And so really, I think when people look for value alignment, that's when value alignment meaning that I want this thing and you want this thing, so how can we pool our resources and make it happen together?
Awesome. I want this thing and you want this thing. This is good. That's another theme. Someone tweet that. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to keep moving, get into the next session. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Megan. So ty.bullock@gmail.com, Megan@meshfresh.com.
Megan Bullock@meshfresh.com.
Great. So follow up. Like these are smart local people putting their hands up. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to add just two more little things. You asked about next steps. I have to let you guys know that my dad is starting a distillery on the west side. So if anybody wants to get involved with that, he loves starting ideas and then looking for other people to actually make them happen. So he's looking for some value alignment with his distillery. Ty's laughing. Today he just called me this morning and said it's no longer a brandy distillery, it's a whiskey distillery. So it's very evolving. If anyone wants to, he also is starting a raw wood milling company. So if anyone's interested in that, there's always new ideas going around at our dinner table. And then I want to just point out one last thing that is really cool about what I think I've seen in our neighborhood. Nobody works in a silo with one another, but also everyone is involved in other things outside the state. And I think often we think about West Virginia's borders as being finite, but I have learned so much from other people in other places, and I think that's a commonality with everyone that is working in Elk City right now. Like Dan at Kinship is touring around the East Coast with his band, and Kaylee's in Pittsburgh this weekend looking at other mural artists. I think it's really important to have a global perspective, that it's hyper-local, but you're also looking at your work in a context of what's happening nationally and internationally. So.
Awesome.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Round of applause.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Cool.
All right, so we're getting towards the end of another long and excellent day. Let's have just a couple of minutes break, and then we're going to have the Mountain Tech Media folks talk to us about the very interesting stuff that they do and how they do it. All right. 3 minutes. Let's keep it moving quickly. Awesome.